The moment she collapsed in the ICU hallway, the world narrowed to a tunnel of white lights and echoing footsteps, and for one terrifying second she understood how fragile a life could be when it finally gives up trying to stay upright. Her knees buckled without warning, her fingers scraping against the cold hospital wall as if it could hold her together, and then the floor rushed up to meet her, swallowing her breath, her strength, and every brave lie she had told herself about being fine. Before the story pulls you any deeper into that hallway and the life it was about to change forever, take a second and show some love to this channel. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet miracles that happen between strangers, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe for more real, heart-touching stories. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from, because this story belongs to all of us, no matter where we are in the world. Her name was Emily Carter, and exhaustion had become her shadow long before she ever reached that ICU corridor. For weeks, she had been living inside the hospital, sleeping in a plastic chair, surviving on vending machine coffee, and whispering prayers into the sterile air as her younger sister fought for her life behind closed doors. Emily had learned the language of beeping monitors and clipped footsteps, had memorized the schedule of doctors she barely recognized, and had grown used to the ache that lived permanently behind her ribs. She told herself she was strong enough, that love alone could keep her standing, until her body finally disagreed. When she fell, it wasn't dramatic or loud, it was quiet and unnoticed, the kind of collapse that happens when someone has carried too much for too long. The stranger who saved her life did not wear a doctor's coat or a nurse's badge. He was just a man walking quickly through the ICU hallway, his jacket half-zipped, his eyes heavy with his own private grief. His name was Daniel Harris, and he had come to the hospital for reasons he didn't talk about to anyone anymore. When he saw Emily crumpled on the floor, something in him reacted before thought could catch up. He knelt beside her, checked her pulse with shaking fingers, and shouted for help with a voice that sounded steadier than he felt. While staff rushed toward them, Daniel stayed grounded, anchoring her with his presence, holding her hand so she wouldn't slip entirely into the dark. It was a small thing, maybe, just minutes of attention in a building full of emergencies, but those minutes kept Emily alive. When she woke up later in a hospital bed of her own, the ceiling felt unfamiliar and the fear came back all at once. A nurse explained what had happened, how a stranger had caught her just in time, how dehydration, exhaustion, and stress had finally demanded their price. Emily listened numbly, embarrassment mixing with gratitude, until her eyes drifted to the bedside table. Lying there was a simple gold wedding ring, scratched and worn, clearly removed in a hurry. The nurse told her it belonged to the man who helped her, that he had taken it off while washing his hands and forgotten to put it back on before being pulled away by his own emergency. Emily picked it up carefully, the metal warm from her skin, and wondered who this man was, and why the sight of that ring made her chest ache. Over the next few days, as her strength returned and her sister's condition slowly stabilized, Emily couldn't stop thinking about the ring. It felt heavier than it should have, as if it carried a story inside it, one filled with love and loss and promises that had been tested by time. She asked about the man whenever she could, but hospitals are places where stories cross briefly and then disappear. Eventually, fate intervened again in the most ordinary way possible. Emily saw him sitting alone in the hospital cafeteria, staring at a cup of untouched coffee, his shoulders slumped in a way she recognized too well. She knew it was him immediately, not because of his face, but because of the sadness he carried so openly. When she returned the ring to him, their connection deepened without words. Daniel's hands trembled as he slipped it back onto his finger, and the gratitude in his eyes was layered with something darker, something unresolved. Over time, in quiet moments and shared glances, Emily learned the truth. Daniel was married, yes, but the ring belonged to a love that had been taken from him far too soon. His wife had died months earlier in that same hospital, after a battle they both pretended they could win. He wore the ring not because he was still living that marriage, but because it reminded him that love had once chosen him, and that maybe, someday, it could again. Their bond grew slowly, carefully, built on understanding rather than expectation. Emily was still learning how to live without constant fear, how to step out of survival mode and into something softer. Daniel was learning how to breathe without guilt, how to help someone without feeling like he was betraying the past. They met in hallways and waiting rooms, in the in-between spaces where life quietly resets itself. There was no grand romance unfolding, no dramatic declarations, just two wounded people discovering that healing sometimes arrives disguised as a stranger who refuses to walk away. As weeks turned into months, Emily's sister recovered enough to leave the hospital, and Daniel found himself visiting less, slowly reclaiming parts of his life he thought were gone forever. On the day Emily finally walked out of the hospital for the last time, she paused in the ICU hallway where everything had changed. She realized that collapsing there had not been her weakest moment, but the beginning of her strongest chapter. Being saved by a stranger had taught her that even in the darkest corridors, kindness waits for someone brave enough to offer it. If this story is stirring something inside you right now, if it's reminding you of a moment when someone showed up for you or when you showed up for someone else, please take a moment to like this video, share it, and let us know it mattered to you. Your engagement helps keep stories like this alive, reaching hearts that need them most. Comment your thoughts and what this story made you feel before the ending. In the end, Emily kept moving forward, carrying gratitude instead of fear, while Daniel learned that love does not end when someone leaves the world, it simply changes shape. The wedding ring remained on his finger, no longer a symbol of loss, but of the day he chose life again by saving someone else's. And somewhere between hospital walls and ordinary days, two strangers proved that sometimes, collapsing is not the end of the story, but the moment when grace finally finds you.